Now you're.
Well, good evening, everybody, or good afternoon, I should say, and welcome to the Jimmy Palumbo Show. That's right, show number 202. Well, good afternoon, everybody. This is show 202. I cannot believe we've been doing the show 202 times. We really haven't missed a week. I got to give myself a knock on wood. Watch, I'll drop dead tomorrow. But this is a fine, of course, behind the glass, your friend and mine, Dallas Cowboys' favorite fan, Mr. Dave Sturchio. How are you today?
Got a little bit of a head cold. It usually works around January-ish. You're around the kids enough, and they're just. I'll never understand it. Like they have precision accuracy when it comes to coughing right in your mouth.
Yes.
If I'm hugging my son, I'm like, come here, buddy. He's like, and it's just like,
yes.
And you just know within the next couple of days, it's over for you.
Yes. You can't beat the kids getting sick. You will go down eventually. The thing is, the kids go down where it's like the wife gets involved. You get the Tylenol going, the red.
The problem is it's a man flu for me. So it's like the slightest head cold. I am like the guy I'm Cameron from
are you like
Ferris Bueller.
So you're like Harper on Rutgers basketball. Just one injury, and that'll do it here. Well, he had a cold, so he didn't play well. Well, he hurt his ankle. He didn't play well.
Yeah.
Or how about he just didn't play well? Anyway,
imagine
so we have a very special show. Of course, I got to admit, very interesting show 202, which means this is the El Capitan Derek Jeter thing, but that doesn't really represent number 2. Of course, we also no Giant has ever worn number 2. So all you stars of the future, if you get drafted by the Giants, ask for number 2. Why? Because you can say I'm the only one who's ever worn it. Other than that, Greg Zuerlein, Cowboy, I believe, kicker at one point. Right now,
now he's the Jets kicker.
He's a Jets kicker. He stinks too now. David Akers on the Philadelphia Eagles. I brought
They're all kickers. They're
all kickers.
Mm-hmm.
Steve Christie, but of course you forget my favorite number 2 of all time. Why? Because I hate him because he completely fell apart in the last 5 minutes of the Super Bowl and allowed Tom Brady into immortal status. Your friend and mine, Mr. Matt Ryan.
Hey, how about Drew Lock, bro? How can you miss that?
I didn't see it I didn't go to full NFL.
Tyrod Taylor. Come on, you're screwing up. You got Tyson Hogan coming in hot today.
That's a Tyrod Taylor. Well, first of all, I didn't realize Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan played 34 years in the NFL. Did you know
he
that?
didn't, but almost.
He 34 years, and he averaged like 13 wins a season, and he fell apart against the Patriots. But so it's show number 202, and normally we do a whole thing. But I decided this is a very special show. First of all, I've been in showbiz for a very long time. Right?
We're going on
audible here. I've been in showbiz for a long time. I'm not a star, but I played all the big parks. Hit a double off the wall at Fenway. Played at Shibe Park. Played at I played at the Vet. And I've never had a guest like this because she kind of does something that's critical to what I do when I try to book work. And I think it's very exciting. I got some questions here. I asked some actor friends of mine some things to ask her. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Jimmy Palumbo Show for the first time. Mel Mack, casting director, acting teacher, actress, and a bunch of other stuff getting involved here. Melanie, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Jimmy. Happy to be here.
Listen, first of all, I'm going to tell you something that's going to sound like I'm blowing smoke up your ass. I'm not.
Okay.
When every actor, that I talk to in New York City always loves auditioning with you. And I think there's one main reason. You're kind, you're friendly, and you explain exactly what you want people to do. And number 2, you actually like it. You like actors. There's a couple of casting directors who you probably worked for. And
I have.
And she's a big one who I think she woke up one morning and said, you know what I hate? I hate actors in casting. So you know what? I'm going to become a big-time casting director and make everybody miserable. I will not say her name because I still audition for her, but my God. But when you went to Mel Mack, you were sweet. And I mean that sincerely. Like, it was like you didn't feel like you were really auditioning. I mean, you knew when, like, a couple of times I probably sucked when I auditioned for you, but you very kindly said I sucked, and I can handle that. You know what I mean? So, and now I got to ask you, I'm doing all the talking, which Dave told me not to do. So you are a casting director. Now, for some of my audience, explain to me, what does a casting director do, and how do you get hired?
Well, first of all, a casting director seeks out actors that are right for the projects that they are casting. So for me, for example, like I've worked in the commercial world forever. So I worked for house casting. So I've been there for about 15 years on both coasts. Second part of that question.
How do you get hired?
How do you get hired? We're hired by production. So, you know, it's just like actors, like we have to jockey as well, right? So we're only as good as the actors that we bring in. So thankfully you don't suck all the time, because we wouldn't be consistently bringing you in, right? And so we have to show, I mean, there's so many times, like I can think about even just last year, the amount of new directors that we worked with that we have to like do a dog and pony show for.
Right.
But I also have super cool bosses.
Right.
So, I mean, you know, Neil.
Now, what led you, you're an actress obviously too, but what led you to casting? What fired you up about it?
I worked, it didn't, I was like broke. And
wait a minute. What, you were broke? Dave, you want to get into casting next week?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
All right, good. The Jimmy Palumbo casting show here.
Really?
It's taking so many ways.
I mean, it's taken them this long to actually make it like a category for the Oscars. No, so when I lived in LA, I was in acting class at the time. And one of the guys in my class was like, hey, I was like, guys, I cannot wait tables anymore. I was like I had 3 jobs. I was doing like the Starbucks 5 a.m. shift. And then like, I had like another rando, worked at the 101 coffee shop, which Swingers was shot at.
I remember it well.
That's
super
money.
Cool. Yeah, it was money. And then I had like a night shift at a different restaurant. So this guy's like, hey, my wife works in casting. And I was like, yeah, but what does it pay? Right. And so he's like, I don't know, they're doing some Pampers job. And I worked for Liz Paulson at the time. And it was like more in a day than I would make probably in 2 days waiting tables.
Oh, wow.
And I said like flyer cars. And then she had said, you know, I know that you're an actor. I would like to train you to run camera. I think you would be good. And so Liz Paulson really is the one that like Sarah Paulson's sister. So she's really the one that like started me on the whole casting train. And I loved working there. It was great.
Right. Well, that's awesome. Usually people get out of showbiz to make money. You went into showbiz to make money. I feel the same way. I'm like, yeah, I feel like I'm podcasting and I should go into like, I don't know, radio. That is awesome. Now I I wrote down a bunch of questions here.
Okay.
Now, when you cast, sometimes the actors don't know that there's like, I always feel like you're like on behind the curtain, the Wizard of Oz, these casting directors. Now, I've read for some casting directors, when you go in the room, and really all they're doing is pushing a button on a camera. You get absolutely nothing out of them. They don't say anything. And to me, it says, okay, they're just that casting director is just a gatekeeper. They're sending footage to the real people that decide who are not here. I never felt that way about you. You always gave very good direction. Your room was set up. You had another thing back in the day with the, what do you call it? The cue cards were always like written out well. I still didn't understand how to read them. Look at the camera, look at the cue card. That's another story for another day. But
that's why he's doing podcasting.
Yeah, that's why I'm podcasting. But do you have like a hit list of actors that are in your hip pocket that you're like, okay, I love these guys, love those girls, whatever, and also like managers and agents, or do you go into every gig wide open?
Well, you know, I think it's kind of twofold, right? And so, you know, I work with house casting and with Mary and Neil. And so our job is to have really good relationships with casting directors and managers, right? Also, our job is to know actors, know what you're really good at. You guys need to help us by knowing what your type is. What the hell do you sell when you walk into the room, and be really good at that, as opposed to trying to figure out what does casting want for this job. Because when you're really good at that, I already know, Jimmy, what to bring you in for, right? Because you're really good at being Jimmy. And so the thing is, when things come across our desk, of course, people just come right to top of mind. Oh, you know who'd be awesome for this? Great, let's get him in. And the reason that we need to have good relationships with managers and agents is, for example, we worked on a big job about 2.5 weeks ago, and they kept changing their mind, changing the scripts, getting rid of characters, writing in new characters. And we were all like, shit, it's the weekend. Like, everybody's closed. Like, how are we, like, where are we going to get people? Right. So this is where we're reaching out to agents and managers that we have closest relationships. This is where we're reaching out to actors and be like, hey, can you do us a favor? Are you available? This is a really quick turnaround time. I know you'd mentioned like self-taping. Can you get us a self-tape in the next like 4 hours? Right. And so I feel like, and we're also old school at my office. Right. Like, we kind of don't put up with shit. We're not like trying to bring in like 200 people for a role. We'd much rather bring in like 80 self-tapes, 100 self-tapes, and be really specific and targeted about the actors that we're bringing in, because every single actor that we're bringing in can book that job. It's not we're just like, oh, hey, let's just give an audition to Dave. Right. Just for shits and giggles.
Now, is that an unfair advantage to any up and coming actors? Meaning, like, for instance, Jimmy's been in the league for 25, 30 years, right? And Jimmy has we reference his friend Dominic Lombardozzi a lot, right? Because I feel like he's one of the best going right now in specific roles. Like, right. Dominic Lombardozzi is always cast for that tough guy, gangster, Italian mob guy. Jimmy can play the cop, the doorman, the third baseman, stuff like that. But like, does that discourage the up and comers where I'm like, man, I can make a really good mobster guy, but damn, Dom's still in the game, so I'm never gonna get that role?
No, not at all, because our job is to find new talent. And so the beauty of, there's two sides of the coin with where the industry is headed now. So everything is done virtually. So if you, Dave, have your headshot up on Actors Access and you're up on casting networks and you have like a clip of, a self-tape that you did at home that looks professional, my job is to be like, hey, you know what? Yeah, Dave is new. Nobody's seen him yet. He doesn't have representation. This is awesome. Every casting director, I feel like, wants to make somebody a star. Right. We do. We just do at the end of the day.
Well, I just set a new goal for 2025. Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you, Mel.
Well, I'm wearing the hat. I mean, I know it's for the Cowboys. But
I agree. Everything is now virtual, which means also you get virtually no income. So
that's actor's fault for doing like in perpetuity and like these like.
Yes. Well, everything's the
right deal, Jimmy. Sign the right deal.
Everything's the actor's fault, of course. Well, what do you do? Now, we're going to get to self-tapes in a second. This is not like a backstage interview, by the way. So we roll a little differently here at Shea. Okay. What do you do when you do meet an actor at a callback? When sometimes you guys go in-house. When someone is like really nervous, and you're like, oh shit, this person's good, but they're just nervous. What do you do to calm? Say they're a rookie, and you get a new guy coming in, he's right for the role, and all of a sudden he gets in a room, and you got producers there, and you're like, it's almost like you're a coach going, uh-oh, he's good, but he's freaking out right now. What do you do in the room to soothe that?
There's a couple different things, right? And so we're rarely in the room anymore. Most, like when you say room now, in my head, I'm like Zoom room, right? And
Zoom room, whatever,
But the beauty of the Zoom room is a lot of times you're getting much more comfortability because you're in the comfort of your home. You're used to that space. You're not walking in. And then you got two sides of that. Like, the one time I was in the room in like November, the director's like, don't you like when actors get nervous? And I'm like, no. You know what I mean? What are you talking about? No, I don't like that. He's like, yeah, but it's like the energy and they're coming in with the thing. And I was like, all right, dude, whatever. And so bringing in somebody new, our job is to navigate that for you. Right. So you come up and like, hey, maybe you're an over talker and you're oversharing because you're nervous. And my job is to like, great, Jimmy. All right. So let's go ahead and hop in. Do you have any questions? I'm going to try to talk to you first for a second to really kind of get you to calm down. There's only so much we can do. So if you do it, if you do it and then you mess up in the middle, who cares? There's plenty of people who booked a role that's messed up in the middle. Just take it again from the top. It's all how you handle the mess up.
Right. Yeah. And I've gotten better at that. Even in stand-up, you tell a joke and it goes flat. I used to panic. It was like, to me, engine lights going off in the plane. Now I know a couple of stupid ass, cute little lines to get. All you got to do is tell the audience, "Hey, that sucked." And I've been in a room where I started off wrong. I was like, "Hey, whoa, can we start this all over? That was awful." And then everybody's like, "Oh, Jimmy realized it too. He sucked." And then you go, every now and then though, you're actually doing really well, and you go, "Oh, that sucked." They're like, "Nah, you were fine." And then the whole thing goes to shit. But yeah, but
I've also like, again, our job is to navigate it because it could be the first time we're working with that client and that director. So if I know, and you're coming in for us, and for whatever reason you're really nervous, you're kind of off your game, we've talked you up to this director. Oh, I'm glad to see Jimmy. Oh, he's great. And then you come in and we're like, what? And we can tell something like, hey, you know what, Jimmy, I'm just gonna go ahead and put you in the waiting room for a second. I'm gonna try to navigate that situation to give you some time. And then maybe I'm gonna pop something in the chat, right? Like back in the day, if we're live in the room, I'm going to give you a second to sit outside. The problem is most actors go outside and their mindset takes over. That sucked. I can't believe I messed up. Oh my God, they're never going to want to see me again. Now I have to go back into the room. Oh, now I'm going to go in and apologize the whole time. And now it becomes like this whole snowball effect.
That's one thing I learned when I'm done with an audition, probably early on, a long time ago. If I would probably have said something like, sorry, you mumbled that that wasn't that good. Now I read somewhere, I forget what acting book it was, and I was like, I don't care if I suck. I walk out of there like, 45 points, 12 rebounds, best player in the country right there. And I let the other, because you know why? My theory, again, these are just theories. See, you've been in the league a while, so you know what you're doing, and a bunch of casting directors know what you're doing. However, with this Zoom shit, I know right away. I tell the guy I work with when I do scenes, I'm like, you know what? Not everybody knows. Some 25-year-old girl at a Boston college, she doesn't know. I know more. She should be nervous to hit the button record for me. And so you assume that they know on the other side. And sometimes they don't. So you just got to do your thing and hit it. But I had an audition last week, actually, in-house for the first time in a long time. And then when I missed bullshitting in the hallway, I saw some of my buddies. I got to smile in front of the casting director. She was some young Mel Mack hey, how you doing? Hey, Jimmy, what's going on? I know I've auditioned for, sending tapes. And I got out of there. I was like, that's the way it should be. And then I realized $25 to park, $1.50 here, $4 there. I was like, that audition just cost me $66 holding. I was like $66 an audition. I'll be in showbiz until June with doing it that way. But then again, when you do self tapes, we're going to get to this now.
That's like 2 hot dogs and a beer.
Well,
if you're
I know, but at least you get to watch a game. I mean, and then the other thing is,
but Jimmy, just to piggyback off that real quick, and this is just me being the Entourage fan that I am. Every time Johnny Drama walked in,
Entourage.
It's my favorite show of all time. In fact, right around now is when I restarted. I've gone through that entire series like 7 times.
So good.
But like Johnny Drama, for instance, he's the man, right? But he's always going into these casting calls, right? And he's there, and you do see the other people. And Jimmy, you said you missed that. You're like, there's my buddy. But in reality, you're walking into the lion's den because those are the people you're competing against. Where I feel like a Zoom thing on a one-on-one with Mel, I'd feel a lot more confident than seeing Dean Cain out there who just played.
Okay, but here's one thing.
He's in your category.
Here's one
thing.
First of all,
that was a Johnny Drama reference. He's like, I got.
I know. He's like, I got it.
Dave, I know you enjoyed my episode of Entourage. That was on. I do. And Curb and Friends and a million.
Anyways, relax.
Relax. Really quick. The thing about the Zoom room, like everybody loves that. Is an actor, I get it. Is a casting director, it can suck. Like we had people running late. We had people coming in for this one callback. The second callback I've done in like 4 years in person. And I was like, great. Okay, so come on in. Do you know how many people came to that room and they're like, so what are we doing? I'm like, a callback?
See, I can't.
I just saw my buddy out in the hall. I'm like, I don't care. We're doing a callback for like a $70,000 job. And the director's here. So are you ready? Like, what's going on?
Listen, I used to, when I first started out, the commercials I was doing some TV first, and I was always doing commercials. I was 0 for 100, by the way, at William Morris. I was 0 for 100 on auditions. Not a callback, not a Mel thinks you're great, nothing. Right. I was 0 for 100. We were down 28-0. I actually walked in to William Morris, a guy named Peter Hess. Don't know if you remember him. I think he's still working out of Florida now. I walked into his office because I was always hanging out with the agents, me and Artie Lang. I was like, dude, I suck. Like I was like, I don't know what to tell you. I'm over 100. And he looked at me. He's like, really? 100? We don't look at it that way. He said, Jimmy, if you sucked, we would have heard about it so long ago. You would have been 0 for 5, and then you would have been gone.
No kidding.
But let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. When you're a rookie, so the last time I booked a big commercial job was actually I did a Colonial Penn spot. Here's the crazy thing. We swing and miss so often. And this is something you should tell when you write another book, which I'm going to talk about in a second. We swing and miss so often. But the funny thing is that, and you're like swinging, strikeout. And all of a sudden you hit one and it goes 500 feet. And you're like, oh, it's gone. Home run. You don't even run the bases well. You're like, oh my God. Because you're so used to now as I get older though, bills are higher, more infrastructure, kids, ex-wives, wives, apartments, condos, everything else, health insurance, better. All of a sudden now you're like, I'm at the plate like, come on, I need this bitch. You know what I mean? Here we go. Come on. Because, and then you read, it says at the top, national network, blah, blah, blah. This will buy you 4 houses. And then, of course, you book it. It runs 5 weeks. You make $9 grand. And thank you very little. And then you talk to some veteran guy we had Dave Koenig on last week. He's like, yeah, I booked this
Dave Koenig.
He was telling me how a spot ran for like 3 years. I'm like,
15 years.
Yeah, 15 years. I'm like, 15 years. Oh my God.
My God.
So these guys made big, I'll tell you one quick thing. I know I'm not supposed to talk. You're supposed to talk, but I always laugh at this.
Fine.
I was in a voiceover. I was in a voiceover audition at William Morris out in LA. And we were a group of 4 at the mics auditioning. And this guy had a really booming voice, but he was new to William Morris. So I went over to the agent, Eric Seastrand, who's a really nice guy. I go, hey, Eric, I was like, tell you, that guy, he's good, that guy. I'm glad, right? He looks at me. He's like, that guy, he's good, Jimmy? I go, yeah. He's like, he's the voice of Tony the Tiger, McGilla Gorilla. So I felt like I was like at a basketball game going, hey, that guy Jordan, he's good. So that guy LeBron James, they're good ball players. Like I felt like I actually went up to the guy and said to him before I went to Eric and said, hey man, you sound great. And he gave me a weird look. Yeah, well, thanks. And I realized he was probably looking at me like, who's this boob?
You know what he should have done? He's gonna reply to you, be like, I know I sound great. And you'd be like, oh my God. That's you.
All right, now let's get the self-tape first.
I love it. Look, we all make those things. Like really quickly when I was acting and nobody told me it was I was doing, and I was out in LA and I had a really big fancy agent. And I didn't know that big fancy agents would send you on meet and greets. And so they would have you, whatever, they'd give you dummy sides. Nobody told me that. I thought it was actually really auditioning for a role. And I remember going to see like the head, I think she was like Grace Wu. I can't remember, whatever. She was like the head of CBS or whatever. And so I went there. It was like the second audition that my agency ever sent me on. And like one of the things that like my character was doing was like brushing something off from like their jacket. I walked right around her desk and she was like, and I'm like brushing something off her jacket. And
oh my God.
She was just like, she didn't know what to do. Right. And then I was just like, this is what you do. This is what you do when you're acting for a series regular role.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. And she was like, that was so interesting. Why did you make the choice where you came around? Because why wouldn't I? And she was like she didn't know what to do.
If I ever audition for you in-house again, I'm going to walk up and brush up. In the middle of the scene, it'll be a fight scene. I'm going to walk up and say, I just need to brush something off. Mel Mack.
It's driving me nuts. You have some lint right here on your
got some lint there. Yeah,
I've auditioned where on a TV screen. I was in-house in New York, but the director was on a TV screen. And I'd worked for him 3 times. As soon as I saw him, I was like, this guy loves me. I'm in. He was rude to me. Didn't give me. I'm like, the fuck is this guy's problem, right? I end up booking. It was like. I said, hey man, what's going on? He went, like, I was like, ooh, what happened there, right? I end up booking the job. I get on the set in LA, right? I see him. I go, bro, what are you constipated on a date? He goes, Jimmy, you have no idea. the producers hated every choice I made. And I knew if I opened my mouth and said, I like this guy, you were done. So I said, I got to let Jimmy throw this touchdown pass all on his own. Of course, I threw a strike over the middle. So I took the job. But that's when I learned that everything is not always as you.
Oh, my God. I will say that I think I can tell this story here because I won't throw out names, but I remember, and I hadn't worked at this casting office for long, and I was running the session, and it was like this big time director. I don't know who the heck he was. I was like, whatever. I just like want to get this call back over with. Right. Because I was already like stressed out, and like, he had to have like it was like Christina Aguilera with like the M&Ms. And I was like, who is this dude? Right. He had like 3 assistants and all the things. And so he comes in and he's like sitting there, like eating candy nonstop. And like the creative director is like saying, hey, is there any way? Could not stand the fact that he was getting feedback. They end up getting in a fist fight in between me calling in actors. And I was like,
oh my God, that's
like,
great.
What the hell is going? And so these poor actors are coming in. I'm like, hey, great. Okay, great. So can you go ahead and slate? All right, now just turn to the left. And like, we're just going to go through it once. Thanks so much. Bye. Because I just wanted to get everybody out of this.
One guy's bleeding from the
I've
eye.
never seen a fight.
Oh my God. I
auditioned for Law and Order once, SVU, and there was 20 people in a room, 5 guys to play the jerk off cop role, right? And you know all 5 of them. And there was 15 women, 20 years old, and the whole show that week was about being raped and brutalized. So all these women were going through their process and screaming into a pillow and crying and there I am, if I said the name, me and Louis Martini, Anthony Mangano, you know that gang. We're sitting there, we're like, oh shit. So I'm like, this was so uncomfortable.
So uncomfortable.
The casting director comes out, all smiles, and he was like, oh my God, this is horrible. He goes, hey girls, I'm so sorry. I'm going to get rid of these guys real quick. He made it sound like he was auditioning for the holder on Extra Points. Let me just get rid of these guys, see if they can snap the ball. And then we're going to get to the acting in a minute. Of course, I doubled off the wall and booked the damn thing. But I was like, I couldn't wait. We ran each guy. You know, you come out of a room, we all scattered. And then when I watched the episode, I was like, holy, what this poor woman had. Again, to me, it was like Daniel Day-Lewis shit. I was like, I could never. And they were like crying and talking to the wall and shit. I was like, what the fuck? Anyway, I don't know.
It's even weirder when people do it in the room.
Right.
Zoom room.
That's
he's like, weird. Can you give me a second?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, what's going on? Like, you're on Zoom.
That's the drama, though. That's Johnny Drama. He turns out, what are you doing?
I auditioned for a Broadway show, a musical, and I had to sing for the first time in front of a biggest casting director on Broadway.
Okay.
And I had never done it before. And I'm in the hallway at one of those, like, I was like, this was like real acting. This was like theater.
Right.
The theater. They were acting now. Right. And they're all in there. Some girl, people were up against the wall going, me, mom, yep. And I'm like, I'm sitting there with my jacket on, and I sang the song Whipping Post by the Allman Brothers.
By the Allman Brothers.
Yeah, I walked in, I've been run down. And I tell you, I belted this fucking song out like I was doing karaoke on a cruise.
Oh
I was like, boom, right? And I come out, I'm all sweating, and I knew they could hear me, and they were doing songs. People were doing Sondheim and like, you know, it's like, yeah, I'm going to do songs from Les Mis and Jimmy Still. I'm doing Allman Brothers. Call back, base hit the center. But but it was so, I realized, because I think I wanted to talk about the reason why I can relate to you a little bit is because you didn't have full formal training. I'm sure you took a class like you didn't go to Juilliard or Yale School of Drama, and neither did I. I worked with my dad doing construction and hanging sheetrock, and I love that you come from that work because I think. Listen, training is awesome. You know that. Training's great. But also, I used to joke around when me and Artie Lang, 2 boobs, used to sign in when we first started our rookie year, and I used to always joke around. After a while, sometimes you get a feeling, oh, you're just, people would say stupid shit like in the room, other actors. And finally, I said, all I know is when you see Artie's name and my name on the sign-in sheet, you better be ready to go because we're going to go in there and bust balls and bring it. I'll smoke your Yale drama school ass out of here. You know what I mean? And then, of course, the role was like, from my left foot. That'll do it here. Palumbo checking in. He's in the tent right now. We're not so sure. He's in protocol. Yeah. But no, I love that. So tell me about how how does that transition with casting?
It's awesome. Like, it's great because, I still audition, not like how I used to. I still have a manager, but what I really like about it is I can relate to what's happening. I can relate to the mindset. I can relate to like getting in your head. I can relate to the thrill of it and booking. I really do understand both sides of where we are right now in the industry. I feel like my job half the time is like a therapist.
Right. Oh, for sure. That's why I do this show. It's my therapy and it doesn't cost me anything. Well, I have to pay Dave. But well, here's another thing about self-tapes I want to bring up. Some people love them. They get into it. I have a love-hate with it because I'm like, why do I got to produce a fucking short film to audition for Cheerios? And I got the wireless mic. I got the gray wall. I got these lights up here, blah, blah, blah. But and actors get into it like, oh, it's so great. I can really dig in. What happens if you're a great actor but a shitty director? You know what happens? You send the wrong take. You don't know what's good because not every actor is a good director. Not every director is a good actor. So I delete on my phone after I do like 2 takes. And if I don't really like it, some people hard them just to see what they want to do. I don't, gone, because I don't want to have to choose. I'll get one. And some people say, oh, I did 4 takes. I'm like, yeah, but what if you suck on the first take? The casting is like, ugh, I got to sit through 3 more of these. You're gone.
Yeah, for sure.
How do you feel about when that aspect where an actor has to kind of produce a little 30-second short?
Well, look, I've seen everything in the past 4 years as far as self-tapes. Like, I've seen people basically like shoot it in a bar and like, the whole 9. And it's
that'd be great.
I
agree with that.
And the thing is, it's like, it's not your job. Your job is to like get a ring light, make sure you have good lighting, get like a background, like that's a plain white background, know what colors look good on you, prep like you would for an audition, like you were going into the room, work with your reader, right? Get off book, do your thing, and then hit record. Give yourself 2 turns. It's like what you're doing. That's exactly right, because that's all you're going to get in the room. Because now what's happening is when you come live into the room, there's like a weird disconnect. Because you've done it so many times at home and now you're live in the room. You come in one time, you might not get direction again.
Right.
So I feel like this kind of thing like, oh, you're going to coach me through it. I'm like, no, I'm not.
What you're doing. Yeah, sometimes when you don't get coaching, you get thrown, you think you're going to get all this love and attention. But sometimes though, I hate when you get it's a big thing and it'll be like, play it funny. Okay. You get nothing. And sometimes that means it's wide open. And I struggle with that too. Like, am I being too over the top ball breaking? Should I be more calm? Low? There's so many little choices you got to make. And when you have no guidance from the casting director, sometimes
I know.
Really flying.
I hear you. And this is where, you're a seasoned actor. You know what you're doing. And you do Jimmy really well. So you probably know you're going to do one where you're breaking balls, and then you're going to do another one where you dial it back a little bit and you're going to come at it differently. Those first six seconds matter. And, I will always say that, like in Instagram and YouTube and all the things, but they always mattered.
Sure.
That hasn't changed. And people are like, oh, but we're in a little box. I'm like, you were always in a little box.
Right.
We were always watching you in a little box, right?
Yep.
The difference was you were coming in a room and I'm standing behind the camera. And now you're behind the camera.
I also think even bigger than that is on Actors Access or casting networks. The submission process, there's no more pitching. It's all point and click. So some agent is on like a Facebook thing designed for show actors and auditioning. And all you're doing is looking at these little things, which also changes the headshots, the 8x10s. I used to staple the crap on, walk in.
Oh, remember that?
I haven't been, black and white.
Cutting them, like cutting it.
Yeah, cutting them around. I was with an agent who insisted on emerald green paper, Acme. You remember them? Acme, yeah. Adam's still in LA. He represents me for comedic commercials and stuff out in LA. But it's like, I remember having to do all that. Now you're just a little little thing
Yeah.
on it.
But this is where branding matters. This is where marketing matters. This is where you are. Look, we've always been a brand, right? It's just like, as we're like jockeying to get where we're going to get, that's when you remember, managers used to be different. Managers managed your career. I remember my agent, Mitchell Stubbs, who's still, I think he's in Atlanta now. He's awesome. And I remember he sat me down like in our second meeting. He's like, here's the deal. When you book a series, your first 3 years, no car, no house, no fancy stuff. I was like, what? And he was like, because you don't know if you're going to have a job again.
That's
for 5
right.
years, right?
That's right.
And he's like, no manager. He's like, we don't have a career to manage yet. And it was the best advice.
I agree.
And now managers can get you auditions. So now the actor's job is to figure out what the heck your brand is, because your branding pitch deck is Actors Access and casting networks.
Yep. It certainly is. I know Adam Lieblein, an agent, he's really big on that. And he actually has monthly meetings on Zoom.
Good. Yeah, that's great.
I said, dude, and he also produces like a comedy show once every 2 months, and he allows his clients to go up. But he wants to be the guy for stand-ups to do commercials. People that are funny. But it certainly is a branding thing. But let's get to you for a second. Now, again, you're going to think I'm blowing.
Dave's still with us. Dave is still with us. It's amazing.
Still with it.
I'm here.
Well, by the way, I produced a web series, a Beer League series, and I casted Dave Sturchio in his first role of his life. You would have think I would have got a little thank you letter. Dear Mr. Jimmy Palumbo, casting director, thank you so much for casting me as Dave Destruction. We learned.
Full transparency. I was cast because I do Jimmy's social media, so it's easy. B, I come from a professional wrestling background, so I do have acting skills, right?
Yes, he does. And he was.
And I've done voiceover stuff, and I've had like little things here and there, but like when he gave me this role, and he's like, oh, by the way, there's going to be like lines and for you to speak and act and fall and do your own stunts and all this other shit. I was like, yeah, of course we could do that.
He was good. He's got a great voice, doesn't he? I tell me he should do voice.
I'm sick, but yeah, usually
he's got a big booming wrestling kind of WrestleMania voice. If you ever have a casting for a WrestleMania guy in the ring, there's your guy.
For sure.
But I this book you wrote, okay?
Yeah.
Which I get it in the middle. Look at you. The adorable Mel Mack. I tell you, I read a lot of friends, colleagues write acting books, and I usually buy them if I know the person.
Yeah, nice.
And some of them are just like, what the? I don't even know what they're talking about. Like they're talking about eye movement and all. I'm like, well, like within like blinking and but it's like, and so I got your book. You were coming on the shows. Let me get this book. Right. And what I love about it is like it's. I'm gonna hold it up because I don't care. It's not like a wordy, crazy book where you have to be like smart to read. It tells you the name of the book.
Dumbs it down.
The name of the book is 101 Acting Tips, and it's exactly what it is. It's just every page is now some of the ones I'll read them. Yeah, I knew that. Yep, I knew that. Then there's one. I didn't know that one. I didn't think about it that way. I think this book, and I'll blast it on my social. Dave will blast it on my social media. I think this is a great book to have. It's only I don't know what the hell it was. $15, and you also get a free ebook on how to do self-tapes and stuff. Yeah. I sat in on your thing the other day. You just want to let people know she wrote this book, 101 Acting Tips by Mel Mack. Go get it. Any actor out there, do it. There's no way you won't read this and be like, oh my God, that was awesome.
Is that just the culmination of like life experience as a casting director?
No, it's just tips. I haven't written that one yet.
Oh, all right.
That's
the second New York bestseller.
She's working on the fourth chapter is the Jimmy Palumbo story.
Yeah. Time I jumped on that podcast and wasted an hour more than I
No, but also you teach a course. I sat in on your demo that you did.
On my masterclass,
your masterclass thing.
Yep.
So you're not just a casting director. You do that. You're an actress. You also really teach it. And even doing your demo, it's so great to see how much you do it. Like you love this shit. And I think that is awesome. Same way Dave and I love sports. And I do love showbiz. I play like I don't give a shit, but I love it all myself. But it really shows when you are talking to people that you really want them to take these tips and do better and hopefully book work and become a star.
Win.
And that's what,
win.
Right.
Yeah.
If some, of course, sometimes the kick is up and it is wide right. I had to do a Buffalo Bill reference. So now,
yeah.
So go by that. Now you're at Mel Mack actingstudio.com.
Yep.
So go check that out. Now we'll get silly for a second. Well, we were getting silly the whole time. You're a Bills fan, right?
Oh boy.
That was brutal.
Yeah, born and raised in Buffalo. My Uncle Tim, my cousin Timmy, my cousin Kelly. We're,
I was rooting for my nephew, believe it or not, is a Chiefs fan. And so he got my mother, who's 85, into it, my sister, I love him. And he's a really funny fan. He goes to the Super Bowl games. He blows money he doesn't have. I love it. But I mean, after a while, you're like, this Chiefs team, and then the Bills were right there. And I felt really bad for Alan. His face just looked so dejected.
I know.
You Bills fan. I know there was a documentary on it.
He's so good. I mean, he's just, he really is like, it's been a light at the end of the tunnel for all of us.
And those refs, the calls were, I didn't even talk about it yet with Dave. I never saw a ref say, and don't do that anymore because we're going to give him a touchdown. Where is that?
That was the Philly game, but yeah.
No, I'm saying those kind of ref. Then there was the one on the ball spotting. Like these refs are changing each game. And especially the Chief, it seems like Andy Reid just says, no. It's crazy.
Gambling has taken over the world, and I think that there's a significant problem with the officiating now going forward, specifically against the Bills. And I was like, back in the 90s when I was living the dream as a child, watching the Cowboys win a bunch of Super Bowls, hasn't happened since. But when that happened and the Bills
1996,
the Bills lost 4 Super Bowls in a row, and I'm just like, there's no way that'll ever happen again. And now here we are in 2025, and Josh Allen's 0-4 against Patrick Mahomes, and I'm like, how is this possible? Like,
it's crazy.
I was so hard on the Bills. Like, I was rooting so heavy.
Well,
but now I gotta.
I hate the Eagles, so I gotta root for the Chiefs.
This sucks, man. I hate that.
I also annoying. Listen, I know gambling's a huge part of the NFL. Of course, I think the Giants have sponsored Gamblers Anonymous because whatever the Giants do with gambling is the opposite. No, we don't gamble here, and we win 3 games because we suck. But anyway, all right. Well, listen, Mel, I think I got all my questions in.
You did?
You know what? One last thing.
All right.
I'll swing back to showbiz for a second. Do you think there are real differences between like TV, film, and commercials in terms of that initial audition?
Talk to me more about that. What do you mean?
Like, in other words, you got a commercial audition for Tylenol, and then you got a 6-line audition for Law and Order, and then you got an audition 5 or 6 lines for a new film coming out. Right. In terms of the audition process, do you think there's a big difference in that?
You have different genres.
lighting, how you should dress, look. Is there any like differential? Because I do it all as one.
Yeah,
I don't think.
Yes, I do think there's a difference. First of all, they're different genres. So now, like, commercials have changed. You're not going to see a ton of like 60-second commercials anymore. You're going to see 30-second commercials, 15-second spots, right? Because now we have Instagram and Facebook ads. I feel like for television, let's talk about multi-camera sitcom, totally different pace than single camera sitcom, right? Totally different pace than a procedural, totally different genre than a horror film. Film, you're way tighter in your framing in a self-tape, and it's going to be all about your thoughts, right? There's much more stillness. Michael Caine talks about it in his book, which is
that's one thing I started doing since I read, it's in your the demo thing you did, and also the book. When I have something, a drama, I do come in closer, which I probably didn't do that in the past. I find that's effective.
So I do think, I mean, look, you're looking at them all the same from an acting point of view and how you're approaching it because you're bringing yourself to it, right? How are you going to be in this situation? For me personally, and because I didn't go to acting school, but like when actors come to me, last night I was in class and most actors like, well, when I have to get into character, I was like, whoa, what? I'm like, you are the character.
Right.
So, stripping that away and like, we just want to see you in this situation.
Right.
Like, how would you be? Yeah, but how do I know if that's right? Well, how is it going to be wrong if you're really personalizing it from your point of view?
Right.
Do you prefer that as far as authenticity rather than like dialing it up to be a specific role? You know what I mean? Like you just said, be authentic, be you. Like if I'm playing a cop and it's supposed to be a funny cop, I don't have to dial up that I'm funny. I think I'm funny. You know what I mean? I'm just funny.
Dave, Dave, you have to dial it up, please.
First of all,
You're just going to be Dave. So think about it this way really quickly. Dave, name me three stars that you can think of off the top of your head.
all right. Jimmy Palumbo, Dominic Lombardozzi, since I met him or I've known him, and I don't know, Sylvester Stallone.
Great. So let's take a look at Sylvester Stallone. Is Sylvester Stallone always Sylvester Stallone?
It seems like he is, if that makes sense. Yeah. Okay.
That's what makes stars.
He's always Rocky to me, but like he could be doing the newer things.
He hasn't really, expanded. Jennifer Aniston, Jim Carrey, Kevin Hart. I mean, just everybody who's a major star got really good at being themselves.
I agree. I think there's only like 5 actors that have all this. I mean, I joke around Daniel Day-Lewis.
But he is somebody that can definitely move
right. And
Malkovich is another good one.
Yes,
right?
But everybody thinks, sometimes when you take these acting classes, I took a class with a guy, ended up being my roommate for a while in LA, Henry Pollack. He was on Webster. And he used to coach me. I was renting a room from him. I'd come down, we'd run a scene. And sometimes I'd get a coaching from someone else. And he would say to me, "Hey, Jimmy, be careful with coaching because coaching screws you up a little bit and you're thinking too much up here and you're stiff. So you have to either
1,000%.
You either got to learn to, he didn't say no coaching. He says you either got to process it better or just get a couple of 101 acting tips because for me, some people, they need a lot of that and then they process it and they do great work. But for me, I get too like, oh shit. What do you say? I got to do this. And all of a sudden, I suck. So I tend to I need someone to really run lines with. And the guy I run lines with is not an actor. And I've been working with him for a couple of years. He actually now says like, I didn't buy into that. I'm like, I always say, he goes, you don't mind that I say that? I said, I absolutely, it's coming from you. Then you see it.
You just sent me a voice note the other day about right before you went on stand up. You sent me a voice. Like, tell me if this makes sense, right? And
I was running a bit by it.
Who the hell am I? But like, it's probably better to get an outsider's perspective rather than than like the guy in front of you.
Because they don't know. They're not going to let, and I agree with that. Like whenever people come, first of all, people will come to me and say like, oh, I have a callback. I'm going to get coaching. I'm like, nope, sorry. We're going to give you credit for this coaching. Wait, you're not going to coach me? I'm like, no, you're getting called back for what you did. Right. Or the flip side of that is they'll come to me with very general choices because they want me to give them the answer. I'm like, I'm only as good as what you bring to me. It's the same in the casting room. Like if you're going to bring a general choice, there's only so far I can go when I'm giving you direction. But if you're bringing me really specific choices based on you, then I have so much more to work with. Same with a director. Like a director loves that. And so then a director will be like, great, Jimmy, show me what else you got. And most of the time actors get bigger and louder.
Right.
It's a cast director's worst nightmare. I'm like, no, don't ask that.
I got to admit, I've been guilty of that. You're like, oh my. Well, how about when you finally get on set, you went on, say, sometimes 3 callbacks, right? Or 2 callbacks plus the main audition. And then you get on set, you're feeling good. Everybody loves you. You had a lot of good contagion in the room. That's a Karen West line there. And all of a sudden,
Karen West. I love Karen West.
She's the best.
She's awesome.
Your audition shit is awesome, and she's right.
Awesome.
Her audition class is she blew me away. Matter of fact, I was shitty in her class. I thought because I was like, holy shit, like this is awesome. And then, but she cast me in a short film she did. I was like, why did you cast me? I was awful in your room because I could tell you were getting it. I'm like, getting it. She was so big on those one-line auditions. My God, I wish I took her class back in 19 whatever. Because those one-line auditions, those are hard.
They're the hardest. I love when actors are like, I'm like, oh, do you want to run it in class? Oh, no, I got it. I'm like, okay, great. Let's just give it to me now. Oh my God, I forgot it. How could I forget one line? I'm like, oh, because they're hard.
In Karen West class, the girl had 2 scenes. 2 lines. She had a bank robbery, and she had to go like this behind the glass, right?
Right.
Get her hands up, right? All the girl did was like the guy points the gun, and she went like this, and Karen was like really subtle. She's like, honey, someone just put a Magnum 44 gun in your face, and you act like you were in a kindergarten class going, hi, everybody. Like, she's like, this is devastating. You're at work, so you're about to get robbed or shot. So I'm in the audience going, oh my God, because my scene was Vietnam. I'm a medevac guy running through bullets, with bullets fired all over. I was like, I didn't prepare. I'm out. I was like, I got, and I ended up doing it, but it was like I'm running all over the room. I was awful. But she was really good at nailing it. But your shit's, I'm telling you, your book is really, really, really good. I think every actor should read it. It just makes, there's nothing in there where you go, no, that's not true. It's just nothing like that. So I hope this book sold well for you, or it will once Dave.
So far, I had, just really quickly, and I'm gonna give a shout out to Mark Lanham. So Mark Lanham was in my class, and I'd been wanting to write a book for a while, and our studio used to be on the Upper East Side, and like there was something slipped under the door when I came to the office one day, and I was like, what is this? And inside it was like these letters, and I was like, this is weird. And one of my actors was like, I want to write a book with you. He's like, I've learned so much in your class. He's like, wow. I can ghostwrite it. And he's like, would you be open to doing that? So Mark Lanham really did a solid job. And a lot of it is what he learned, which was super cool.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Great stuff. Well, listen, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show.
So much. I really appreciate it.
It's I wish you luck with all your classes coming up, and I'm sure you'll be getting one of my shitty self-tapes in the next couple of months.
You also get one from me, too.
Yeah. If you guys could do it together.
Yeah.
Self-tape together.
I was just sending next week's podcast.
Yeah. The role of two podcasters. It's perfect. And there's all kinds of little things about them. They don't make any money. No. The role is two New Jersey podcasters who are broke. One of them has two kids, and the other one's daughter is older, and they're trying to figure out how to stay in showbiz too.
Oh my God. Jimmy and I had this conversation, Dave, like 8 years ago in the voiceover room in house casting. We just sat there for like 30 minutes and we just talked about this.
I believe it.
I know. Of course, I didn't book it. That's the.
I believe as well.
You know what? I used to remember about house casting back in the day. It was over on 14th or 15th Street over there. I guess they cast models over there.
Oh, because we're at Milk Studios.
Dave, you have no idea. You'd be sitting there, and I'm playing a truck driver for a Tylenol commercial, and in would walk in like 4 women, and you're like, oh my God, those women make a living from their beauty. Like, it's not like, in other words, you go down to Jersey Shore DJs, you meet hot chicks, blah, blah, blah. This is like, no. This is in other words, it's like, they're faster. They're like, it's like, and then, but they sit down next to you and they're real people, but you almost want to go
they're real people. Listen to you like they're robots.
You understand? Well, Dave, you don't understand how beautiful some of these women are. You almost want to
Fashion Week.
Listen, I watch movies. I've seen the commercial. I know.
I almost want to tell. I was told one girl, "Hey, can you take off that whole thing you're wearing and that beautiful thing?" There's got to be some girl named Bertha underneath all that. But I would be blown away just walking. Then you realize if you're trying to get in showbiz as a pretty girl or guy. By the way, some of the guys that will walk in, I'm like, I don't play that way, but if I did, yellow. And you realize that if you think you're going to get by just on your looks, a casting can make one phone call and there's 100 of that in the room.
Listen, I made it 39 years looking like this, so I think I'll be all right, Jim.
You made it, Jim.
No, it's just some people think you can get by on looks, and you can for a little bit, but it's hard. They're not the diamond does. I don't mean to say that, but that house casting, woo! Good evening, everybody. That was a fun place to go audition. You know what? Remember? Oh, I could talk forever about this. Right, you got to get off the show. You got to go home. You got to go cast. All right. Thank you so much. You rock.
All right, guys.
Thank you, Mel.
Everybody, Mel Mack, 101 acting tips. And sorry about the bills. And
all right.
You'll be fine.
Just tell yourself what I've been telling myself for the last 30 years. There's always next year.
That's what I just said. There's always next year.
Yeah, just like the Giants. There's always next year to suck again.
Yeah.
So, all right, we'll see you, Mel.
Right,
Thank you so much. Love you. Peace.
Okay, I'll see you later.
You got it.
She's great.
All right, Mel Mack getting involved here. What do we at the 54-minute mark here?
Yeah, we got about 10 minutes left.
Let's see. I just want to thank my Patreon members, Dave, Ben, Mike Caprio, and my sister, Mary Eileen Riccardi, getting involved here.
Notice how I waited until she was off to do the jug chug.
You didn't do the jug, yeah. You did the jug.
I didn't want to be unappreciative.
And listen, for all my Joe Synagore, Tyson Hogan, thanks for chiming in. We'll do a quick baseball card thing. Good old Gary Templeton here at Shea.
Oh, I know that name.
Yes, you do, because there's Gary Templeton Jr.
Maybe I know that one.
Gary Templeton, 16 years in the bigs, 1976 to 91, shortstop, batted 271 lifetime, so he'd be making at least $11 million a year now. 242 stolen bases, played with the Cardinals, the Padres, and the New York Mets for one last season in 91. In 84, made the playoffs with the Padres. They lost to the Tigers. He batted 324 in the playoffs. He did well there. He was also involved in a little bit of a trade. You might remember the guy he was traded for. He and Sixto Lescano were traded to the Padres. And the St. Louis Cardinals got a shortstop who's in the Hall of Fame.
Ozzie Smith.
Here you go, Ozzie Smith. Now, the thing was, Ozzie Smith couldn't hit, but he could field at the time of the trade. Yet they said Templeton could hit, but couldn't field. And yet when they switched over, Ozzie Smith started to hit with the Cardinals, and Templeton played great defense with the Padres. But he was also he was like a temper guy. He got in a lot of trouble, fights in the clubhouse and stuff like that. But that's it. He's now coached for a while, and he's now a scout for the Diamondbacks after he's in the Padres Hall of Fame. He also is the first switch hitter to get 100 hits from both sides of the plate. I think that's pretty cool, because usually guys, to this day, I don't understand why a switch hitter, he's batting 110 as a righty, and he's batting like 280 as a lefty.
I never really understand that at all.
Never understood that.
I'll never get it.
And they never break. No. I will only bat. Really, you're batting 110. You're like, Stanton's better than you. Like
my sweet spot when I was like, not a good avid baseball player, but like when I played ball, I liked the ball low and outside, right? Low and outside was my thing. You lean in, you boop, and you try to pull it, you try to get ahead of it. That was my thing. Or you could send it the opposite way. Low and outside was a very good pitch to hit both ways. But like, since I like it low and outside, if I face a lefty pitcher, chances are I'm not getting much low and outside. It's going to be breaking inside. So for the lefty batter, like, why would you?
I think it screws you.
You know what I mean? Like, it's I don't know. I've always been tripped.
I think it's something that I want to. If I was a manager, I mean, listen, you're a switch hitter and you bat 300. I want you to bat 300 from both sides. Otherwise, you're batting 350 as a righty.
Yeah, because some of these guys, it's all for like aesthetics almost. Like the Yankees lineup is like, all right, we're going righty, lefty, and then you got two switch hitters. Like, yeah, but who gives a shit?
Who gives a shit? They suck anyway. Real quick, RU Hoops, we lost to Michigan State. I think we stink. We're 10-10. It's awful. What a complete bust on this season. The NFL games, Eagles.
Before we get to the NFL games, let's hear from Madison real quick. She did send over something. Yep, she sent over something this morning.
All right, Oscar Madison.
Have at it, Maddie.
Thanks, guys, and welcome back to another Minute with Madison. Super Bowl 59 is set. We have the Kansas City Chiefs against the Philadelphia Eagles, and I have to ask, is anyone surprised, and is anyone excited to watch this matchup? I think the entire country wanted it to be Bills Commanders. For Super Bowl 59, I do have to go with the Kansas City Chiefs, and that's not because I am an Eagle hater. I truly think the Chiefs are going to win their third Super Bowl in a row, and especially after those sketchy calls with the refs against the Bills, there's no way they're losing the Super Bowl. The game is going to come down to the wire. It's going to be very close, but the Chiefs are going to come out with that win. On the other hand, the Philadelphia Eagles, it is painful, especially after being a Giants fan my entire life, watching Saquon Barkley run all over the field. I mean, how can he not? He has a great offensive line, just like he did with the Giants. That's all the time we have for today. I will be back next week with a recap of the Super Bowl. Thanks, guys, and back to you.
Well, she's under the impression the Super Bowl's this week, but we'll figure it out. But anyway, thank you, Madison.
I also going to tell my cousin Joey to turn the dehumidifier off in the background there. And I got to talk to Madison. I know she had some cool.
Yes, I talked to her too. She told me I got all the details, and I wanted to know, what she was going after, and she told me, and I said that's great. I was like, it's a dream kind of shit, you know.
Really good
and you have
shit.
the ability when you're that young and you're not married, you don't have kids, you know, you have experience within the NFL. Like this is her shot. Like this is you got to go.
You couldn't even move to Edison right now.
No, Cowboys offer me a job right now. I'd be like,
Dave got a job at WAZT.
But, you know, we'll figure it out.
Edison Radio here with your host Dave Sturchio. Yeah, obviously Chiefs. Oh my God! But you know what? Listen, Mahomes, Andy Reid, Kelsey, there's Hall of Famers there. They seem to get a little lucky. Their defense dials it up like unbelievabely. They're just winners, man. They're just winners. They're just winners. They just are. The Eagles, I'm just
they beat the shit out of the Redskins. I feel like the Commanders didn't belong at certain points.
Yeah, me too.
There was times where I'm like, "Oh, all right, we got a game, you know." And then like I was at the bar because I went and saw Louis C.K. on Sunday night with my buddies over at the Stress Factory, and I'm watching the game. And it got to the point you mentioned it before, where the guy's like, "If he does it again, we're gonna give him a touchdown." I told my brother, I'm like, did he just say they're going to award them a touchdown?
Well, and I think
I never heard that.
I hate the tush push. So to me, it's like I think the refs should say, "Okay, we're going to replay it because everybody's trying anything to stop it." And I think it should be banned. You shouldn't push. You shouldn't have to push.
Well, I know for a fact that the one rule is in place where you can't pull your guy. You know what I mean? Like if you're in front of him for whatever reason and you're in the end zone, you can't grab him by the jersey and pull him into the end zone. But all of a sudden you can push him. It's the same shit.
I think they're going to change that.
They're so worried about player safety and all this other nonsense. But you're letting 11 guys just smash each other as fucking hard as they can.
And I don't think that doesn't seem to be because first of all, defensive coordinators, like they're not just like you and I sitting around drinking beers. How do we stop it? These guys are watching video in slow motion in millimeters, trying to figure out any edge. And I actually think it was a great. Can you imagine if the guy timed that right?
That's what I'm saying. I thought by at least the third time he was going to nail it.
I know. The problem is it was a good idea, but the wrong player to do that.
He's being Troy Polamalu all of a sudden. He's just jumping all over the field.
But that was that. So we got Super Bowl, Chiefs, Eagles. That's cool.
Yeah, we'll make our official Jimmy Palumbo show picks next week.
I want to thank my sponsors, OxyMagicUSA.com. If you have filthy carpets, you got to get them cleaned. Me and Dave have done it. Our carpets are filthy, but they were dirty. He's got kids, and I got me. Also, CornholeLevel.com. I was supposed to hold it up here somewhere. I don't even know where the hell it is.
Probably put the book on top of it.
Go to CornholeLevel.com. Here it is right here. Of course, quickly, CornholeLevel.com right there. Hook it on your cornhole thing. Dave's cornhole has been shitty for a while. I did comedy on Friday night at Booyah.
How'd that go? Ryan Marr posted something. He tagged you. I shared it in your story. How'd it go?
It was very successful for the owner of the club, because that place never has anybody in it, and Jimmy Palumbo brought his posse, and it was like packed. But the sound system was coming out of the ceiling. Nobody could hear. Nobody could. It was completely.
Is it a bad time to ask you how the whatchamacallit, the one joke worked or no?
It didn't work because I started to bail on material. Once I was up there 35 minutes, I was like, people were talking way in the back. There was CNN and games on to the left. It was a nightmare gig for a comic, but I got paid well. The owner was happy. I don't think I'll be back. But then Saturday night was in a regular room at the Downtown American Legion in Westwood, New Jersey, where people were there to laugh.
You're a Hall of Famer at these VFWs, man.
And Liz Glazer and Ryan Marr and myself, we did like a killer set. People were really... you know what? All three comics had I probably had one of my better sets of all time, maybe. It just all came together because I was so bummed about Friday night, because nothing worse that when you're doing stand-up and no one's paying attention, they don't even give you a chance. It's horrible. And so we got through that, but it was a really good time. Shout out to Ryan Marr and Liz Glazer, who will be on more shows with me for sure. Quick thing. We'll get off. I watched the movie Anora, Anora. You gotta watch this movie, man.
I just started Landman.
It's wild. It's not even out. It's in the theaters. It's one of those. I got a screener from the Screen Actors Guild. It's one of those movies. The first 10 minutes is all like sex and strip club stuff, but you got to get through that. Once you get past that part, but it's like if you're watching it with your wife, it's like loud and there's disco music, but once it settles down, the kid playing the Russian 22-year-old, I think, is so funny and great, and the ending is cool too. I loved it. Honora, go check it out. Don't forget One Bite Creative, who designed my website and my little postcards here with the merch on the back. Look at all that stuff, and let's go check out my merch.
He went all in on you, man. I hope
he went all in.
You're paying him good.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I'm living in my car now, but hey, don't forget chasingmiracles.com. The patches.
You're actually just renting. You're just renting the dining room now.
Yeah,
I have living in a condo.
I have 8 people living with me that are trying to avoid the government right now. The Palumbo with a quick 3 back out. Yeah, let it count. Fades into the bench. The Knicks won last night.
Hey,
it's going to be huge. Knicks are definitely going to go to 5 games in that second round and lose. So, absolutely.
I'm excited for one of my teams for the long.
No. You know what's going to, dude? That's how we are. All our teams.
I know. I'm just like, let's get to no spring where the sun starts shining a little bit and the Knicks are up by 17 here at the half. It's like
Rangers
are playing good fucking basketball, man.
Rangers, Knicks, Rutgers, Giants, Cowboys.
Hey, Rangers are playing with a little bit of extra life lately. They're not as bad as they were.
I've seen your daughter dance.
The Cowboys made a big splash yesterday by announcing the hiring and having a press conference with Brian.
I didn't realize his father died.
Marty?
I didn't realize that.
I knew it, but then he said, like, my dad's looking down on me, and I was like, well, he's not upstairs. So like, all right.
I thought he was looking down on him because he's a shitty coach.
Oh,
I don't. You know what though? We talked about it off air. You cannot. This guy could win 4 Super Bowl. You just do not know.
I just watched the video, and do you remember when the Eagles hired Doug Peterson? It was ranked one of the worst hires of all time.
No
he
doubt.
went to the Super Bowl and won the damn thing the next year.
Right.
Nick Sirianni was the last of the Mohegans when it comes to getting hired.
Yeah.
He got hired by the Eagles. He's in his 2nd Super Bowl in 3 years. Everybody calm the fuck down because
I agree. You know what you have to do? You have to a 3rd down and 8. You have to do a 9-yard curl. And you got to complete the pass. That's what you got to do. That's what Mahomes does.
Day, though, the Redskins they did a fake punt like effectively, and I was like, man, that's so nice. You know?
It's nice to see that stuff work.
The Cowboys have tried like 7 fake punts this year, and they all failed miserably.
Listen,
like, what would you think of your punter? Just like shot putting something. Like can't throw for shit.
As a Giant fan, a 20-yard completion over the middle is like, wow, it works in the NFL. It happens there.
Do that? That's not against the rules.
Anyway. All right. Well, the show ran a little long. We tried to curtail it. It was not our normal show. Big shout out to Mel Mack.
Yeah, she was great.
She was great, and she's a cool person in showbiz. She's one of the good ones.
And now my newest casting director, so I'm going to get some gigs work now. You watch.
We will talk off the air. That'll do it, everybody. Good night, everybody.